Welcome to MCN and the 2022 Yamaha MT10. Now, the MT10 has always been more than just an R1 with straight bars, because ever since it was released in 2016, it's been the only Japanese naked that can really bring it to the best of the European super naked competition. It's always been the most fun, really, and the cheapest. Now that's all down to the cross-plane crank engine's monumental torque, wailing MotoGP soundtrack, and a pathological lust for corners. But at the same time, it's comfortable and easy to get on with. Its rivals have all moved the super naked game on over the years. So the big question is, has the 2022 MT10? The biggest change comes within that cross-plane crank engine. The power increases from 158 bhp to 164 bhp, and torque is increased by a smidge. Crucially, there's more oomph in the mid-range thanks to new mapping and steel instead of titanium conrods. So it's still no 200 bhp European super naked monster, but it's all the better for it because the meat of its power is right where you need it, which is between 4,000 and 8,000 RPM. And in that zone, it's got the grunt of a big V-twin. It's incredible. It never stops exciting, this engine. It's just, and it's a pathological wheelie machine. It's amazing. The only minus I would say is that around town, still the fueling is way too aggressive. Yamaha have also made the gearing longer. So the rear sprocket is now 42 tooth instead of a 43. You don't really notice much difference when you ride in. You've still got loads and loads of acceleration off the throttle. It surges out of corners like you wouldn't believe. But it's designed to improve fuel economy, which was never an MT10 strong point. And it still isn't, to be honest. We didn't get to check the MPG properly. We will when we test it here in the UK. But Yamaha claimed 41 MPG, which still isn't great. Chassis-wise, it's still basically the same. It still has that Delta Box cast alley beam frame. It's got a slightly smaller subframe for its stubby tail unit, but aside from that, it's more or less as it was. It also still has fully adjustable KYB suspension, but the forks have firmer damping settings. A 3mm longer rear spring and taller profile rear Bridgestone S22, which is up from 50 to 55 section, pushes more weight over the front wheel and raises the seat by 10mm to 835mm. Weight also increases from 210 kilos to 212 thanks to 2 extra catalysts in the exhaust, so it now has 4. The MT10 still handles superbly, but during our test ride, it still has a strange Yamaha kind of hard feeling at the front end. Something you had experienced on the original MT09 and the previous MT10. So the front feels quite high and stiff. So it only really works when you're jamming the front end into the corners. But if you're riding it kind of more flowing or in the wet, you haven't got a lot of feel from the front. And that kind of lack of feel is compounded by the fact that the brakes have got no feel either. It's the same as before, it's the same as the R1, same as a lot of Japanese ABS systems. The brakes work, but you've got no feel through the lever, and that's purely how the ABS is set up, because all the European super nakeds have got a much more tactile, better feeling front end. So that's the only place really where the MT10 struggles against the competition, and that's on the way into corners. The MT10 is also more dramatic than before, and that's down to the way it sounds. The 2022 MT10 has a new full titanium exhaust system, and that is fruitier than before, and it does sound delicious, but it's still quiet because it has to be nowadays. So instead, they've worked on playing tunes with the induction noise. A new airbox has 3 varying length and diameter intake ducts designed to resonate at different frequencies as the engine spins harder. Additionally, there are 2 big holes in the top of the tank cover to let the airbox sing. And at full throttle, it sounds like it booms like Barry White, and it sounds like a MotoGP bike. The yowl it makes is just absolutely exquisite, and you cannot get enough of that noise. The 2022 MT10 has also got a slightly new look, although many will be disappointed that it does look pretty similar to before, still got that kind of insect styling, but obviously doesn't put many people off in the UK because Yamaha sell more MT10s in the UK than anywhere else. The bodywork is pared to the bone, so you're ultra exposed at motorway speeds, with its radiator shrouds removed to expose more of the frame. The tank is now smoother and the seat firmer for added feel, but its roomy, supermoto-like riding position remains. New LED headlights are shrouded by more fared-in plastics and remodelled air intakes. The wheels are slightly lighter, not that you can tell too much of a difference, and those Bridgestone S22s are fantastic all-round sports tyres, so they'll work in most conditions, really cold, really hot, wet, dry. They're fantastic. Yamaha have also refined the electronics. So the original MT10 was kind of launched at the beginning of the electronics revolution, quite near the start of it anyway. So it's no surprise that the 2022 model is completely overhauled. It now has a 6-axis IMU for traction, slide and engine braking control, cornering ABS and anti-wheelie. There are 4 power maps and modes with rider aids that can all be mixed, matched or turned off. It also has cruise control, a speed limiter and an up and down quick shifter. A 4.2-inch colour TFT replaces the old LCD dash, but it isn't as all-singing as its European rivals and lacks connectivity. As before, there will be an MT10 SP version. That will have Gen 2 semi-active Öhlins suspension, a belly pan, braided steel brake lines and an R1M style paint job. So the MT10 has never had the pub bragging power figures of its European rivals or its kind of sexy looks, but it's always been the most fun super naked and the easiest to ride. It still is, but what the 2022 model gives you is a monstrous amount more drama in the mid-range, which makes it even more exciting, especially with the extra induction roar bellowing in your ears. Better still, the MT10's new electronics, which we were worried about being a little bit too nannying, can all be switched off. And that's going to let you enjoy the MT10's fruits to the full. But brakes and forks don't have the feel they should, and the throttle can be aggressive around town. Yamaha have improved the MT10 with all of its 2022 upgrades, and that's a great thing because it's still one of the most fun super nakeds of them all, and that's all down to that cross-plane crank engine. And best of all, the Yamaha is one of the cheapest too.